Hey y'all, it's Mary Payne from Pink Shade. And if you're hearing this, that means I'm on vacation. Oh, so exciting. So, for this week, when I'm on vacation, I'm presenting a series to you called Then and Now. Then and Now. So, the then part is my Pain in the Pod days where I had a podcast about podcasters, and it was amazing. I loved it so much. Thinking about bringing a little Pain in the Pod back in the new year. Not as it was, but maybe just on the Pink Shade Prime, Patreon, and Supercast. Anyway, that's a side note. That's a programming note for 2024. So when you're hearing these episodes, you're going to hear me talk to Ryan Bailey, Kate Casey, and Matt and Jake from Reality Gaze. And what we're going to do is break down the original episode that I had with them from 2018, 2019, 2020. And then we will talk about what's going on now, what has changed, what stayed the same. So what you're going to hear is my current interview with either Kate, Ryan, or Matt and Jake. And then you afterwards stay tuned and you'll hear the original episode. So I hope you enjoyed this series. I'm thinking about kind of stringing this along now that I see some of the old interviews I have and how great they were. I'm like, hey, why not catch up with some of these people? So I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you in the new year. Hey, y'all, it's Mary Payne here of Pink Shade. I don't know if you guys know, but I had a podcast a few years ago. It was called Payne and the Pod. Obviously, it's a play on my name, being Mary Payne. I started that podcast October 1st of 2018. If you're not familiar with it, I only interviewed podcasters about their podcast. So you can still find the old episodes. And honestly, when I was listening to it, I was afraid I was going to be cringing the entire time. I was like, oh God, it's going to be terrible. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. So the podcast is just me interviewing podcasters about their podcast. I had deep interviews with creators of like serious podcasts like Tiger King or crime type of podcasts, like The Shrink Next Door. And I also interviewed reality podcasters because those are my people, like, let's be honest. So that leads me into today's episode, which is a Then and Now episode with my friend Ryan Bailey. Now, I talked to Ryan Bailey on April 29th of 2020. That's how long ago it was. That's how long we've been friends. Welcome back, Ryan Bailey.
Wow. First off, a podcast where I had to do homework is wild. I usually just have to watch reality shows, but I was pre-cringing, like you said earlier, about having to listen to myself back because I don't usually love doing that. And I got to tell you, I won't say pleasant. I was surprised. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I mean, I just, from my part, I was like, oh wow, it was interesting to see how many things change, but also how many things are still the same.
Yeah. And I think that listening to it, and when we came up with this idea, because these will be coming out while I'm across the pond, as they say, in Europe. And I'll be out of town. So I was like, we got to come up with new content. But then also a lot of our shows don't run new content. So it's not even like I could pre-record.
Yeah.
So we came up with this idea, and I was like, well, first of all, we got to do Ryan, and then we got to do Kate Casey, and we got to do Matt and Jake from Reality Gaze. But they were 90-day gays back then. They changed. Yes. Yeah. So much has changed. So listen, since you and I first talked April 29th of 2020, I mean, so much has changed, but so much has stayed the same. And you've been on Pink Shade tons of times. Tons.
Yeah. I mean, I think, since we talked, I mean, I both of us, we haven't stopped. I mean, I don't think there's been a real vacation in there at any point for me. I don't think not that this is, like I always say, this is work that I love doing, but what was interesting was I knew exactly where I was. I was in a different house at the time. I had a job at an acting studio, which I don't have anymore. I could see, I mean, I knew exactly. It took me back in really weird ways because we were also in the pandemic. And I just remember that now. I mean, hearing that, it was like this audio diary that I didn't I just thought, man, I can't, I can't believe that it's been that long and that I'm still doing this. I mean, we both are. And it really blew me away because so much has happened since then. But then at the same
Yeah.
time, I'm still talking Vanderpump. I'm still talking all of those things. But it is interesting to hear back and like, I'm not going to say hopeful, but I just, I don't think I had any idea where any of this was going to lead or take me. I mean, nor do I really now, but it's more, a little more set. There's a little more of a foundation now, or kind of a history to look back on, which is really great to do this. I was really, I got to say, it was a really, I don't even know the words. I'm at a loss for words. It was very interesting because it just made me remember so many things that I had forgotten about
Yeah.
starting this. And what a, not to pat podcasters on the back, but like what a journey we all go through. And, it's like there's so many we have so many lost soldiers along the way. Like I was trying to think about like how many people
Yeah.
have come and gone. And like there's been a billion new podcasts started in the last 3.5 years. But it
Yeah.
was really, really interesting. Really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, can you believe you and I have known each other for that long? I mean, that's
I
crazy.
can't. I can't.
That's
Well, the thing
crazy.
is, but when you told me to ask me to do this, in my head it was like a year and a half ago. In my
Hmm.
head, I was like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I remember it, and then when I looked at the date, I was like, wait, this can't be right. And then it was thinking, oh my gosh, because I screw up on how long this show has been. My show has been a show, even like always. Oh, it's been going 3 years. No, it's been going 4 years now. But you
Hmm.
just everything like there's been so much work involved that every day is just a new thing. Like I just got off the road from Vegas and immediately I was hit with the Vanderpump Rules season 11 trailer. I'm doing that. I'm talking to you. I got to do this afterwards. And I know your schedule's the same way. And I just thought
Hmm.
nothing is in that sense. It's not a lot has changed. In fact, it's gotten more intense in terms
Yeah.
of everything that you're trying to do every day or complete every day. And it almost made, and I know this sounds horrible, it almost made you miss the isolation of a pandemic where
Yeah.
your life was like, I had this job that was 40 hours a week that I was trying to do from a Zoom thing where you would go into the office. I was trying to figure that out. And that was really scary. I didn't know how to do that. My parents lived in Arizona and I know they were going through the pandemic. And I remember my dad scavenging for toilet paper and being proud when he found like all of these memories. And
Yeah.
but at the same time, it was it was a controlled environment. I was just in my room. And in
Hmm.
some senses, that's the same. At the end of the night, I'm always just here recording and most of my day is spent in here. But all these other factors, when worlds open back up, I think that's been the tricky part is I almost look at those are like the glory days of like, oh, I wish, man, it seemed all so much more simple back then.
Well, I mean, April 29th of 2020, I mean, we were barely a month and a half into the pandemic. And, if I won't ever, but if I ever went back and listened to all the podcasts that Aaron and I did together at that time, where we were like, well, I'm sure it's just going to, like, I'm sure we could go on spring break. Like, I'm sure, oh, yeah, our trip in June is going to be fine. Like, we really had no idea. And when I was talking to you, you were doing your full time job and you were doing this. And I remember before I listened to it, I was trying to remember back to that first podcast I did with you. And I remember, even though, I mean, I am older than you, but not by like 30 years, I
Yeah.
remember feeling very motherly and concerned about your lack of sleep. And I still feel
It's
that way about you.
Yeah,
Still.
that's it's nothing really has changed. I mean, the sleep has gotten worse. I mean, I love that we have a whole conversation about Fitbit in there. By the way, one of the best things I ever did was lose my Fitbit bit. I can't even track my sleep anymore, and it would horribly depress me if I could. And I know not
Yeah.
to get another one because I would just get so focused and sad about that. But yeah, it is interesting that because even when we talk about on that of at that time I was doing like one big 4 to 5 hour podcast a week, and we
And what
talk
did
about
what did
that.
I say? What did I
You were like,
say? What was,
well, you
don't
you
do
said, oh,
that.
you should do more. You should do two a week. And now what am I doing?
Would
I'm
you
doing
want me
like
to cut it in
cut it. Yeah,
half?
part one,
Cut
part
it.
two.
So it's
Which
part one,
well,
part two.
Okay, but this is what's hysterical is that I was like, yeah, great idea. And I moved to like a daily format. But the thing with the daily format, I'm still laying down like 3 hour episodes in some of these episodes. So I've increased my work and I'm still stupid enough. Well, not stupid. I do this on kind of purpose is that I don't break those episodes up because I know there's commercials in it I know there's commercials in it and I don't want to ever get reviews or read reviews of too many commercials. So I always want to give extra of like for the people that like that, even though you can skip through, I don't want to, you guys know, but like I sometimes will, and sometimes it's self-serving because I'm on a roll or like I'm getting excited talking about something and I want to just have a flat road to go. But that was one of the parts where I was listening going, still haven't figured it out. I still haven't figured it out because I could be doing like 3-parters. I could be making things so much easier. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just don't.
I was like, in my mind, I was like, why don't you just do, if you're going to do 4 or 5 hours, why don't you just do 4 or 5 episodes, 1 hour and just drop one every day? And I was trying to tell you, you look in your podcast app and you're like, oh, look at this. Ryan gave me a new podcast today, especially during quarantine. We were all so desperate for content. And so I was trying to tell you that. I was like, listen to grandma, listen to what grandma's telling you. And you're like, no, I think I'm just going to keep doing 4 or 5 episodes and not sleep at all. And that's still
Yeah,
what you're doing. You're
it's
still
gotten
not
worse. Yeah.
sleeping enough. You're still not
Yeah.
sleeping.
Yeah. I mean, well, I think also it is, we were talking about the shows we watch in the episode too. And, and there are shows I watch like 90 Day, which you cover, like Love After Lockup, all of these things I watch, I don't cover at all. And half of that, that would just, think how crazy. I would be doing 20 episodes a week, but also I still hold true to the fact there are like certain shows for just me. Like
Yeah.
there's like, and I brought up, I think the term fangirl in that. Somebody tried to say I was a fangirl as a slight like last month, and I was like, that's not a slight. That's actually what I am. I am a
That's what I
fangirl.
am.
Like
People
hell
call me
yeah.
people call me a star fucker, and I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I
I
am.
mean, I mean,
I love to see a star in the wild.
I wouldn't go so, but I'm a fangirl of this whole process, and that includes podcasting. And my whole show still is based around of like, don't be ashamed of these things that you love. Lean
Yeah.
in. We have careers because people like the things that we like. But I still hold that bit. Like there are shows where I'm like, good, I can watch on Friday Love or Life After Lockup, and that can be just for me. That can be just,
Hmm.
I can be that person that I was before a podcast that I just watch and think how crazy and insane these people are. And sometimes I think I told you at BravoCon, I was like, oh, like I would like, I'll come on your show and talk Love After Lock. Like those are great because it's like a vacation from what I do. But yeah, like also pop culture is always changing. It's like the news cycle, but with pop culture, it's a 24-hour news cycle. I just got hit with 2 things like right that I have to like start taking notes on right after this. And and the thing is, it's because I love it. Like this is not a calling like being a priest or something, but it is a calling in the sense of this is I think this answered a lot of the questions I had growing up of why do I like the things that I like? Why am I so passionate about these things? And I think the podcast gave me an excuse of like, oh, that must have just been my origin story. I was meant to do this, and that's why I've been like this all my life. I'm able to tell myself that, but I want to talk about all this stuff. Like, I mean, it's really self-serving, and I don't mean in the sense of a financial thing, or I mean just that I have a place to land where I can say every weird thought in my head. I can I can learn from other people. Like you said, I can talk to people that fascinate me. I can meet new people through the podcast all the time. So in that sense, even though the work has intensified greatly, it's always just the rewards always far outweigh anything. And then, like I said, I'm not talking financially. I'm talking everything that comes with it, like the Bravo cons, like like, I mean, just all the stupid stuff that I used to geek out on, I get to be a part of now in a small way. And that to me is, that to me is like, I can look back on these 3.5 and 4 years and go, okay,
Yeah.
this means something to me.
Yeah, totally. And I liked in the interview that we did, we had a conversation about DJ James Kennedy and Raquel. And that conversation was wild
Yeah.
because you were saying that you would, you like to make fun of him and you also just like to say DJ James Kennedy like I do.
Yeah.
And that you saw he and Raquel hiking on
Runyon Canyon. Yeah.
Runyon and you were just like, top man.
Top man. And he was, He was very excited, but I didn't get a turn to Rachel and tell her that I thought she was doing a good job that season. That was season
Uh-huh.
8. And there was season 8 or 9. It was a really bad. And by the way, I love that we talked about it saying like, oh, what a bad episode it just was, because there were 2 seasons of Vanderpump Rules that were close to unwatchable, but I was still watching along with everybody else.
Me too.
And,
Yeah.
but also what I said then holds true too, is that a lot of the reality stars that I love or make fun of, I don't think they necessarily. And by the way, that's the good and bad thing about the show being more out there and being a little more known, is that I've hurt like you hurt people's feelings sometimes, or even reality stars. You have to I hate to like you then have if you meet them you realize they have feelings, and that's no fun for creativity. Like I want to be able to have my petty side. I want to be able to like make fun of DJ James Kennedy, but also like I even said in that episode, I said DJ James Kennedy would never understand why I love DJ James Kennedy. It's not because I think he's given us a pattern on how to live your life, like some kind of map. No, it's because I think he's ridiculous. And at the
Hmm.
same time, there are elements of every reality where I'm like, good for you. You're really like, you look how far you've come with your DJ career. I am proud in that sense, but at the same time, I like it because it's just ridiculous. And there's a guy that like, I'm DJ James Kennedy and I'm going to play at Coachella guys night. I love that kind of ridiculousness. And that's what I think makes a good reality star. But we've seen that. I even I even said in that episode with you about, I said Jax. I was like, Jax, I hate how he treats Sandoval. I hate how he never has to pay for anything that he's really done, and how he leans into religion and all of these things. And we're supposed to buy into everything. And now it's interesting. These years later, we're going through that with Sandoval in a certain way.
Hmm.
I
You
thought that was
really,
interesting
really,
how,
you had a long run of hatred for Jax, and
yeah,
we got into it, and I was like, let's talk about it, because like he's been rude to my face before too. I do actually think he's grown and changed quite a bit. Who knows if he'll change back at some point, but I think that talking to you, and you were like, yeah, like the other day he just sent a DM. No, he tweeted at FedEx. Like, what a dick. Don't tweet at FedEx about your lost package. It was so funny.
during a
It was
pandemic, FedEx was like essential workers at the time. And he was like, where's my protein powder? And I was like, what the hell? Like, dude, this is not the time to use any of your low level celebrity to like yell at people that are actually out there having to like deal with the public during a pandemic. But that was classic Jax. But I will say it's also something that like it gave me great joy to laugh at Jax. But that's the other frustrating thing, is that you get not frustrating, but the interesting thing is like now Jax follows me on Instagram. Now
Mhm.
and you have to, and it's one of those things. You're like, I don't think I want to know Jax personally. And when I've gotten to know any of these people personally, it's usually not been a good situation in the end. Like, it's like
Yes,
sometimes I
I
want
know.
to, I just want to be able to like see what I see on the TV, what the producers are trying to show us, and comment on that. And then, of course, we can pull in a lot of their social media and things. But when you start to, I don't know, Mary Payne, I mean, like, I've gone through a really horrible, tough year aside from the show. And you start to like, if my sensitive side, if I pull that into things, it's like, I get it. We're all messes, we're all struggling. We're all on some
Mhm.
journey. We're all on this thing of like, I mess up all the time. And you have to be like, I think it's just with the Sandoval thing. I think I just took him as a different person, that he
Mhm.
actually turned out to be. And I'm not saying like this is the most evil man in the world, but like then when you throw in like the Vanderpump economy and making money off of these things, these horrible actions, and then trying to get a redemption arc, which looks like he's going to try to do in season 11, there is
Yeah.
that part of me that it's like, it's hard, because you're trying to say, okay, where have I failed as a person in my life? How can I have empathy with that? But then when you keep like these facts keep getting revealed about the whole Scandival thing, you're just like, dude, like, and also there's like, there's a primal thing that you're just not admitting where like, don't like, now he's trying to say, oh, I loved Raquel. Like I loved her. I was in love with her. It's like, dude, that was there's so many facets to this. Don't try to like reverse engineer why you did a horrible thing, when at the end of the day, a good portion of that was, it was just fucking exciting. It was just
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah.
And the sneaking around got exciting for 7 months. And it was a huge turn on. And I think he's conflating being turned on with love. And I
Yeah.
think, when you're in a long term relationship, sometimes it isn't, and nor should it be sometimes as exciting as those really horrible, seedy moments that can be really hot, but then really damage your life in the long run. But in the end, they're all fine. Jax is going to be back on our screens in Vanderpump Rules season 11. He's got a new show. Tom's going to be able to have his season. He tours around with his band. It all
Mm.
comes out in the wash, but I do think I don't know. It's one of those things that even confuses me more than it did 4 years ago.
And another thing that we mentioned that was funny, we were talking about the first season of Love is Blind, and look where we are with that. And then I loved that you said you and Bo, Stassi's husband, had an
Yeah.
idea of following the Countess Luann around like the Grateful Dead. And
Yeah.
I was like, what happened to that idea? Because,
I still think that's a
now
great
that
idea.
the Dead's off tour. I've got my shirt on. The Dead's off tour. I need somebody to follow.
Well, here's
I've
a great.
I've seen her twice. I could go for.
I,
I could make
I've
it to
seen,
3,000.
I've seen her 4 times, so I'm like, no, I will. This is a story I really don't tell a lot because I think it also shows the battle, shows kind of what I go through in terms of how I sometimes the jokes I'll make on social media. And I was interviewing these ladies who have this great podcast, Housewives Nightcap, with Access Hollywood. Lauren Herbert and
Lauren
Emily Orozco.
and Emily, yeah.
I love them. And Emily we were talking, and she's like, "It's so funny, It's like when I meet you or talk to you and all that stuff, or we're having this conversation, it's so fun and great and easy, and you're such a nice guy, and you have great points, But she was like, but sometimes your social media can like hit hard. Like I'll throw out a meme that'll be kind of, how I feel, but it'll be in a joke form. And I remember with Bo in particular, it was probably after I did this interview, was that, Bo, I saw that, like, it was when Stassi announced the pregnancy,
Mm-hmm.
and she had also just gotten fired from Vanderpump Rules.
Right.
And I made a meme that I think them holding up the the baby clothing or something,
Yeah,
but
that's how they announced it. Yeah.
announcing the pregnancy. And I said, I'm trying to think of what the joke was, but it was like, I got fired from Vanderpump Rules, and now I'm announcing a baby, and this and all I got was this shirt. It was some joke on the shirt that was like cutting about. I think the idea. Yeah, I think the idea at the time was about the timing, and I didn't think anything. I put it out there, and I think 2 judgy girls maybe reposted it or something. But I remember being in the middle of a work call, like in a session with all new actors on Zoom at that desk in my room. And I looked down and I have a text from Bo, and he had that image, and he was like, "Really, dude? Really?" And I will tell you, it didn't. And this is how sad. I didn't even cross my mind when I made it, my actual relationship with Bo at the time. It also was a little bit of how I felt in that moment, but it wasn't about, but I saw the joke. I said, okay, I'm going to take this. Like, it was weird. And that's sometimes how my mind works still, where I won't look ahead at the consequences. I'm looking at that joke and I'm like, that's a big fat joke I can make. And also I really did feel it was weird timing at the time. I was kind of like, there were certain patterns of behavior with Stassi in general that I disagreed with. And that's how I kind of take out some of my thoughts is in meme or podcast format. But I remember getting that text and I still feel bad to this day because, Bo, like I said on that podcast with you, good guy, like we never talked about like Stassi. Like I knew him before Stassi. I remember when he got discovered as Stassi's boyfriend, and I had to like tip him off that like a Facebook group found out who he was through his tattoos. And I remember him texting going like, "Oh shit, this is why I didn't want my face to be like," he's like, I was like, "Hey dude, just let you know." But we never talked about Vanderpump Rules. We never talked about, but I will say I still get conflicted about things like that. Like I get conflicted, and it really is hard when you know these people a little personally, because you're like, oh man, because in real life you do take it easy on people that you know personally most of the time.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And another thing that we talked about was, didn't age well. You said, about Big Ed, you're like, I think that he would get a break if he had a neck. You're like, I think if he was a good looking guy,
I said, listen,
people would be okay with the way he treated Rose. I was like, I don't think so. I think that jerk.
Okay, well,
neck or no neck.
But I will say, like, I will say, I think it's interesting if we talked about Harvey Weinstein, a very disgusting man, but it is interesting. I think sometimes if you are good looking. I mean, even you can bring up like Gary Turner from The Golden Bachelor, right?
Uh-huh.
We all love Gary, very handsome, 73-year-old man. And I just thought, oh my God, this guy, like, where did they find this guy? This guy's perfect for reality television. And what a charming guy. I cry every episode of The Golden Bachelor. And then they had that hit piece. It was in like Hollywood Reporter the week of the
Yeah.
finale, where it
Mhm.
said all of the things and the lady he dated that he never mentioned and all of these things. And,
Yeah.
I do find it interesting. I think we do actually sometimes take it easier on people that are stereotypically good looking. Even Brad Pitt, to this day, there are things with like Angelina Jolie and whatever happened on that private jet that the kids, a lot of his kids really hold things against him still. But he's Brad Pitt, he's like, he seems like a really nice, friendly, amazing looking guy. But
Yeah.
somebody, usually we're all monsters to somebody.
Yeah, well, that's right. That's
But,
right. But
but also Big Ed turned out to, even at that time it was just Rose. Then the pattern of behavior with Big Ed after the fact turns out he's just real douchebag.
yeah, and that's why I'm kind of loving listening to these back because, like I said, and you said as well, I was like, oh my God, I'm just going to be cringing about how awful I was and how I sounded terrible. Really, I sound exactly the same. So I don't know what that means for me, like no
Oh,
growth.
I think wait, to the audience. I think I'm better in the podcast with Mary Payne 3.5 years ago than I am right now. Like I was like, wow, this is very well put together. I was like, well, this is very good. I've had that moment where I was like, I'm doing okay here. Like I don't have that feeling right now, but I had that feeling listening to me 3.5 years ago.
You're like, I would have listened to that guy's podcast. He sounds
Well,
like
I
he's
would.
got
I
his
don't.
shit together.
Yeah, I know. I was like, God, I was like, what? Wow, I really went in reverse in some ways.
I loved how you also said when we talked about 90 Day and stuff, and you were like, you were telling the story that you've told me before about Darcy, and you're like, oh my God, Darcy's going to be on 90 Day for her entire life. Well, that almost is true, except for Darcy and Stacey. Our understanding is that it's not coming back. And so she keeps putting out there currently, sorry, the dogs are barking.
Yeah,
She keeps
yeah.
putting out there currently like old announcements of their show. And people are like, oh my God, I'm so excited. It's coming back in January. Like, no, that was like 3 seasons back. I don't know why she's reposting
Yeah,
this. It's fingers crossed, you know?
well, yeah. I mean, I think that's a lot of reality stars or just pop culture people in general, like will put out things just to like try to build some kind of enthusiasm or momentum so they can then show that to like TLC or whoever they're shopping their show to next of, listen, I have a fan base. That's one of the interesting things about like growing older with these people is that, in terms of reality shows, they've only been around like 3 decades, in all seriousness. So where do all, I've always asked is where do all the reality show stars go from here? Like where do
Uh-huh.
they all go? There's only so much tummy tea that you can push on your Instagram. Where
Uh-huh.
do they all go? Like what we have to take care of these people for the rest of our lives now because we like them on a show and we follow them on social media and now we have to support, like I have to actually worry about Darcy and Stacey for the rest of my life. Like that's wild to me.
I know. And but we have these spinoffs that we're getting that are like shows for them, right? You've got Celebrity Big Brother, you've got House of Villains, and then what's the other one that Jill Zarin's going to be on coming up? There's
Oh
another.
yeah, it's called not the con, the because Doty's on it too. I
Yeah,
forgot what it's called, but yeah,
when's that coming out? I
I
thought
think
I thought that was House of Villains was the same thing, but it's not. It's two different shows. I
I
thought it
bet
was
it'll
the
come out in January or February. I would imagine because it's completed fully.
So we've got shows like that, right? So that's where they
Yeah.
go, and they're just all competing for those spots on those shows.
Well, but Mary Payne, think about it in the sense of, it's like and this goes for podcasting as well. I mean, that's the thing. I think
Uh-oh.
we've seen even back then, the proliferation of podcasting. Like I had started at a time when it was like, I think the dance card was already full in so many ways. You had
Mm-hmm.
Crappens, Danny, Kate, Laura. You had
Mm-hmm.
all of these people that still have shows. And I felt like, oh my God, I'm getting a late start. Why am I even doing this? Like,
Yeah.
will anybody care? And then I think about now, and it's even, I mean, tenfold of what it was in terms of the amount of pop culture podcasts, reality show podcasts. And it's great. I mean, truly, the more the merrier. If you have something to say and you have a distinct personality, go do it. But it's the same with like, there's only so many hours in a day for the listeners or the viewers. There's only 2 eyeballs, 2 ears. And I sometimes put myself in the ears of a listener and go, there's so much competition for your
Yeah.
ears right now. There is so
Hmm.
much competition even for your eyes. And that's why when new reality shows pop up, it's amazing. But even for me, like I can't, I'm realizing there's a point where I can't pick up a new show.
I
I
know.
can't, and it's like, oh, boo hoo. But like, I take it seriously. So I want to be able to know. And that, like, when I was a kid, I wanted to know everything. I wanted to see every movie, listen to every album. And then you get older and you realize that can't happen. So it's really then about what is, we talked about it 3.5 years ago. What makes you special? What's your special sauce? What's the thing that we can distill so I know exactly who you are, and that's what I keep coming back for. And that's what I
Hmm.
found with listeners is the thing is that the more they feel they know you, even though they can't know you completely, obviously, but the more that they, like it really does become friends. And I said that 3.5 years ago. That's what I mean, that's like, this is becomes like a gigantic family. But it is interesting. I would be really nervous if I was starting now. I mean, I was
Yeah.
nervous back then, but I just
Yeah.
can't imagine what you think going into it now because I think a lot of people have a misconception still that this is kind of easy. Like, oh, you just put it out
Yeah.
and then you gain an audience and it's amazing and it's so fun and then you get invited to these things and that's just not that's not how I found it to be, nor I don't think how you found it to be.
No, not at all. I find it to be harder and harder because the market is so saturated. And the reason I started Pain in the Pod, the first one, was because I loved podcasts so much and I wanted to know how are these podcasts made, whether they're people talking about reality TV or like the guy that did Cold, the huge one out of Utah about Susan Powell. Like I wanted to know
Yeah,
he said the amount of like so many years worth of research to go into this like 10 episode podcast, the guy that did the Shrink Next Door, like you really have to. I really wanted to know, like, how did you find the subject, how long did you research it, and then so I wanted to know about those kind of podcasts, but then I also wanted to know about the reality podcasters because that's what I was listening a lot of as well because I love reality shows. And it's funny too because you talk about like not being able to take on new shows. That comes to me all the time. I'm like, I gave up on The Bachelor like Nick Vile's year. Like I haven't watched it really since. I had to watch The Golden Bachelor because first of all, one lady was from my neighborhood, and second of all, I these are my people, like these are my elders. I had to watch it,
yeah.
but I can't watch The Bachelor. I can't watch Big
Well,
Brother.
I mean, well, I
I
will
can't.
say the Golden Bachelor. That's it, to your point. That brought me back in. I haven't
Yes,
watched The Bachelor in many years because it was too much. It was too
too
many new
much.
people that I had to remember their names, and they all already didn't seem like they were there for the right reasons. But the Golden Bachelor brought me in, and I think that's a good lesson for anybody that does anything creative. Is that don't look down the middle of the road. Look to the left. Look to the right. Try to find that different path. And I think when even like with what you're doing here, when you kind of rejigger a formula and say,
Mhm.
get into a different avenue, it's going to push you creatively to go somewhere different that actually might bring more people in or bring people back that liked it and said, okay, now I'm actually back in. And I thought that was an interesting lesson that I need to even pay attention to at times.
Yeah, totally, and totally. And I thought it was speaking of that, I thought it was interesting too that you said something that I've long thought, and I still to this day am trying very hard to not imitate other people or take anybody's joke. So it's very hard. Like
Yeah.
if there's lots of podcasts about the same thing, because you were saying you really don't listen to a lot of
Yeah.
reality TV podcasts because you don't want to accidentally say, anytime I ever accidentally, I'll go, oh my God, so funny. I heard Ben and Ronnie say on Crappens. I don't want to make sure
Yeah.
that nobody hears it and says, Ben and Ronnie said that. And she's just saying it.
Yeah.
I'm not that funny. I didn't come up with it. I always want to make sure. So sometimes I really wait until after I put out any episode I'm going to do about something to listen to another one. And for you though, because you're so day to day to day,
Yeah.
that would be pretty hard. That would be pretty
Well, the
hard.
only
So
time I'll listen to a pop culture podcast is if they're coming on my show. Like I had Lauren and Emily on last week, so I listened to a
mhm.
handful of their episodes. And I'll have to tell you, like, if I didn't have a podcast, I would be devouring all of these shows. Like like every time I get to listen, I love it. I'm like, oh, this
Yeah.
is awesome. That's so funny. That's so interesting. But yeah, like I really want to keep like my own opinions, my own opinion, whether people agree with them or not. That's all I have is how I feel and think about something. And you'll see that too, is that, listen, in terms of like jokes or memes or like that, it's like, we'll all have similar takes in a way. Like,
Yeah.
jokes, they're not sometimes stolen. It's just that that's an obvious joke, or that is, like that happens a lot. I have it happen. Like I've had people be like, oh, this person stole your stuff. No, probably not. Like sometimes maybe, but probably for the most count, not, because there's only so many, like, I don't know. I find that interesting as I get further into it. But yeah, I think the only thing I do have is myself and how I think about things. So I would never want to risk that and also just from an insecurity, like, say, I don't want to listen to like crap and then feel bad about myself that I can't be that funny, or that I don't want to do that to myself. Like the out of sight, out of mind. Not, but like, by the way, I love those guys. Like,
I know you do.
and I get to
I know
talk
you
to them,
do.
so they're fucking just as funny in person than they are. Like, but I would, I don't want to ever compare and despair with myself, which I do a lot in life. So why do
Yes.
that to myself?
I've never heard that term, compare and despair, and I'm going to be thinking about that.
Oh
Now,
my God, you obviously haven't been to therapy, Mary Payne, because that I feel is like a big therapy. Don't compare and despair. That's big in therapy.
I've been to therapy, but it's been some years, so maybe that's a newer term. So it's new in therapy. So at the end of Pain in the Pod, and I'd totally forgotten about this until I listened to the one with you, and I was like, what I did at the end was I would say, we've talked about your podcast, but what podcast are you listening to? So
Yeah.
you told me you listened to New York Times, The Daily,
Yep.
Heavyweight, and What the Fuck, Mark Maron,
Mark Maron.
and I got to tell you that when you were saying about New York Times, The Daily, I was, before the pandemic, trying to listen to it, not every day, but then when the pandemic started, I was like, nope, 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 nope. I can't listen to it because it's so upsetting. The news is so upsetting.
Yeah.
And so, are you still listening to The Daily, Heavyweight, and
No,
Mark Maron?
well, I was laughing while I was listening to that. So I stopped listening to the daily, but also just because it was the length. It would be like 20 to 30 minutes, and I wanted to whittle that down. So now I listen to NPR's Up First, which is like 13 minutes a day, and I'll listen at 1.5 speed. I listen to my audiobooks at 1.75 speed. And I will say, I said on your podcast, I said, oh, I don't read books anymore. I just watch TV. And that changed in the last couple of years, where I did discover, because I loved books so much, and I was like, I can't really but I will, I now listen to audiobooks all the time. But yeah, Up First, I listen to. Heavyweight, I will dip into occasionally. I don't listen to Marin anymore, not because of anything personal. I do star certain interviews, and I'm like, oh, down the road, or if I'm on a long road trip, I would check out. But I was just listening to, on the ride back from Vegas, Dan Savage's podcast.
Oh God, producer Ingrid loves that Dan Savage.
Love Dan Savage. Love Dan Savage. Him. Something and it's all about relationships and sex, and but in a very, I just think he's a very unique like a unique host, and I think he's really well thought out. I always learn something, so I was listening to that. And I didn't mention this at the time because it's not a podcast, but I have a big Stern Show guy, Howard Stern, and that's where I got my love of talk radio, and also why I was initially doing 4 to 5 hour shows was, listen, Stern Show is like 4 to 5 hours, drive time radio is 4 to 5 hours, why can't we do this in a podcast form? And so I don't get to do that on a daily basis at all, but I was checking in, like, it's like family, like you check in with them, see how they're doing.
Yeah.
So I was listening to the most recent episode on the ride back. But in terms of podcasting, I'm trying to think if there's, it's usually I'll listen to whoever I have to speak to next. I'll listen to that podcast.
Yes.
But other than that, I'm trying to think when I pull up, it's like Up First, and that's 13 minutes.
I love that you whittled down from 20 to 13 minutes, and then you still listen to it on 1.5 speed, because you have your energy is so like go, 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 go. And that's why I still worry about your sleep. I mean, we're back to it here at the end, but it worries me a lot. I don't want you to burn out. It worries me.
This American Life I listened to today too, and it's great.
Oh.
This American Life with Ira Glass, that's another one from time to time I'll check in with. And they release just amazing episodes, all, 3 different stories usually per episode, tight hour-long episodes that are really well produced. I really have always, it's the things that you love when you're younger, you still love them, but you just don't have sometimes time to keep up with everything.
Oh yeah, totally. I do read like on my Kindle at night for like 10, 15 minutes, and that's when I read because if I have time to listen to an audiobook, generally I'm going to listen to a podcast. I will listen to, you or Crappens or usually our friends, but I'm always trying to again like trying to make sure that I'm doing it after my episode comes out so I don't copy them. But I mean, you can't beat listen to somebody that you know because I can just imagine you because I know you. I can imagine you sitting and like and then pulling on your hair like you do and all that. And
Yeah,
it's just,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Well, oh my gosh, there was something I saw on Instagram. I'm trying to remember the podcaster, but it was like they were talking about something that I'd covered, and they had like a totally different observation that I didn't even notice. I think it was
Mm,
about Housewives of Salt Lake City, and I just remember going like, "Fuck, that's amazing!" Like, I mean, that wasn't me comparing and despairing, but I will say that was like. That's what I love about this is that so many people look at things in a different way, and something that I can fully miss, somebody else
yeah.
will pick up on. And then that throws me down a path of like, oh, wow, like, oh, that's true. If that's true, what else could be true? And I think that's really exciting on a positive thing of like how many great minds there are out there.
Yeah. Well, that happens to me all the time with people. Like, of course, with housewives, our minds are always changing between one season to the next. But same with our people on like Love After Lockup or 90 Day. Big Ed's a good example. When he first came on our screen, I was like, well, look at that guy. That is so sad. Look at him with his little dog in his backpack. That poor little guy taking nudie pictures of ladies. Look at him. And now we're like, he's a monster.
Yeah, it's a
you
monster.
know?
Yeah.
So sometimes somebody will have a hot take, like initially, like you don't think that guy seems gross that he's like grooming this 20-year-old girl. I was like, no, I think it's sweet. I mean, and then now, of course, as it goes on, you're like, okay, they were right. It is gross.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
is
it is.
gross.
Well, I mean, that's the benefit of time,
Yeah,
it's the benefit.
yeah.
But I also think it's interesting, you can't necessarily fully compare it to real life because when you're on a reality show too, not like, I'm not talking about editing but like, it's just that, um, it almost encourages bad behavior. It almost encourages these people. And then they use this low level celebrity to kind of be a little more disgusting. Like they push it a little, they push it a little further than how, like, if TV wasn't involved, now they're like, I got some Instagram followers. And then they push it a little further than they should.
If I ever get as many Instagram followers as you, I'm gonna be a full monster. I'm gonna be a monster. I'm gonna
Well, you know what? I was thinking about that
I'm
the
gonna be
other
tagging
day.
FedEx. I'm gonna be tagging FedEx and Sephora and just
No,
giving
see,
some free shit.
it never for me, I could get all the Instagram followers in the world and it will not really change how I feel, unfortunately, about myself. It won't change how I don't try to I never, I don't, in fact, if I post, and me and Mediza will not argue, but we'll go back and forth about this. Is that we actually had a conversation last Monday where I'm like, I will sometimes purposely. I haven't really gone into video as much as I should. Like we have the YouTube channel, full recaps on there and stuff, but I don't make
That's a lot, though. That's a lot.
Oh, it
That's
is
a
a lot,
lot.
but I'm saying like I don't like I'm not breaking down into clips and all this stuff because I hate. I remember like we were doing this about a year and a half ago, and sometimes I just wouldn't post them because I just felt like I don't want to look at my face. I don't want to, and also I don't want to be like look at me. Even though inherently this is listen to me. But there is
Yes.
this kind of war in me at all times of I don't want. This feels a little douchey. I don't want to be asking people for this. I don't want to like. There always is this kind of war inside me of like it's too much me. This is too much me, and so that's why I like to make the memes on Instagram because it's not like I can just make a
Yeah.
joke that doesn't have my face or my voice. This is just my stupid joke. Here it is.
Yeah.
And like sometimes I'll do 3 promotional things in a row and I give myself douche chills. I talk about it on the show all the time. I'll just be like, oh God, like enough. But the other part of that is, damn, I'm proud of this. Damn, I'm proud of what we've done over the last 4 years. Damn, I'm proud of this. And what I'm trying to reframe my thinking is, check this out. Like, this is funny. This could be interesting to you. I'm really proud of this. A lot of work and time. And like, this is now like, this is my life's work. And I'm not saying that with a wink or a joke. This is it. I'm proud of this. Man, I hope there's something in this that you could take from it. So I have to reframe my way of thinking. And I've really, it's a hard conversation I've been having to have with myself this last month.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm proud of you too. I'm not proud of the fact that you're getting less sleep than before. Because the two, on Mother God, the two things they deprived him of, food and sleep. So
Well, don't worry. I'm drinking tons of colloidal silver, and
good.
I
Okay,
feel
good.
good. I have a great complexion right now. It's light blue, and it's no. I know this isn't. In all honesty, yeah, I gotta look out for my health. It's been a really hard year, and I know my
Yeah.
health is not the best right now. I'm not really taking care of myself in a way that I should. Even really more, 3.5 years ago, I was like, God, I was like a health nut compared to what I am now, and that was bad. So, yeah, it's not good, and I have to figure that out. And it's one of those things you don't want to be some cautionary tale for any other podcasters out there, but it is true that I am not taking care of myself this year.
Well,
Yeah.
I want you to not burn out because that would make me really sad because we need to hear Ryan Bailey in our ears. And you guys, you know where to find Ryan Bailey. It's so bad it's good with Ryan Bailey. But what are you covering anything specific right now other than just Bravo? You're just doing pop culture and Bravo every day, or
Yeah.
you're throwing in The Bachelor and what else?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, listen, like we do the pop culture roundup on Monday, which is a collection of pop culture stories. It's goofy, it's silly, but there's a lot of other stuff in there. But like last week, we had Mike the Situation from Jersey Shore, and that was so exciting for me. I'm talking to an actor actually, Sophia Boutella, who's the lead in a new Netflix movie by Zack Snyder, like this new sci-fi Star Wars. Zack Snyder directed like Justice League, Batman versus Superman, but
Oh,
she's the
okay.
lead in this new Netflix movie that's going to come out in 2 weeks. And that's a little bit left of center for me. Even though I love movies and stuff, I don't really fully talk to movie actors on the show. So this is a really exciting thing. But we have a cast member from Married to Medicine coming up. I'm covering Beverly Hills and Salt Lake, full line by line recaps for that. I have a director, Andrew Jenks, who did an amazing documentary about the Cabbage Patch Kids called $1 Billion Babies that I think you guys are all going
Uh,
to. The movie's out in theaters right now, but once it hits streaming, you guys are going to love this documentary because if you were an 80s kid, you
I
knew about
had
the
the
Cabbage Patch Kids.
I had
But if
the
you
original adoption dolls
Oh,
that were cloth
oh,
from Xavier
oh my
Roberts
God.
with they're signed. Like I have
It
them.
covers it. It covers it all in this documentary. I
Hmm.
didn't even know that happened. Like,
Oh
there's
yeah,
a place that you used to go
I
to
had
adopt these things, and they would
yes,
pull them out of the cabbage patches. It
I
was
had three of
wild.
them. I had two girls and a boy.
Wait, do you still
They
have
were
them?
yeah.
Those are worth some money now. Like, no joke. Those are worth some money now.
I would not sell my children that I adopted. How dare
By
you?
the way, that's how Xavier Roberts was. But also, the story even gets more fascinating because there was another lady that made this a similar type of doll before Xavier Roberts, and a lot of people say that he stole this idea, and it kind of covers that whole thing as well, and the court case that went along with it. And it's a really touching, beautiful, sad story, but also so many laughs in it. And that's what I'm saying is that like when I get excited about all this stuff. Like, like I get to watch a
Yeah,
documentary, I get to watch a movie, so it's going to cover a lot of different things at all times. But yeah, I mean, the bread and butter is the Bravo, but what's exciting is be able to branch out here and there and really try to get better at, talking to people, interviewing people. And, I mean, that's been the dream. We talked about Entertainment Tonight when I was on 3.5 years ago, and being able
yeah,
to do more and more things in that kind of vein, it's pinch me moments.
yeah. Well, I'm very proud of you, Ryan. Again, I act
I'm
like
proud of
I'm
you. Look at
for.
this. By the way, you guys listening, you might cut this out. Producer Ingrid, don't cut this out. Mary Payne and Ingrid, these guys are like ballers. I was like drinking a martini with them at Caesar's Palace. Like Mary Payne's filling me in on like industry stuff because I don't even really know. Like I gotta keep my head down and just go, go, go. And like Mary, like they know everything about everything. These guys, like you guys know it all. Like in fact, it's like too bad you have such a successful podcast because if you didn't, I'd be like, will you please be my agent? Will you please represent me? And just because you know everything about everything and you know everybody and like I don't do any of that stuff. And that's really impressive on top of the amazing show you have and the audience that you've built. Like that's insane. I can't even imagine trying to add that on to what I do now.
Okay, first of all, none of that's true. Ingrid
It is
is
fully
I-
true.
Ingrid is really good. But what we were trying to pick your brain about was like when we were at BravoCon and you would get invited to things like a dry bar party. I was like, now
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you obviously are not going to get your hair did at the dry bar. So how
I
can
ended up,
I get
I
in that
getting my
party?
hair did. Well, but see, having that stuff, I don't even know how they find. Like, you'll just get an email, and you'll just like, it's not me out there plugging away asking for things. Like, in fact, I found out the other day that like if I had been better about asking, I could have gone to Kathy Hilton's Christmas party. DirecTV was like, "Yeah, why didn't you just ask?" And I was like, "Well, I don't do that first off, but like, I have to."
People got paid big money to go to that.
Yeah, I
People
like
got yeah.
so. It is
Yeah.
interesting. Well, I got an influencer thing at the Jeff Lewis premiere. I had to go to that and
Yeah.
cover it for a company for
Cool.
Amazon Freebie, and that was awesome. But it was like, I'm good at doing the podcast. I'm not so good at selling myself outside of that. So that's something that I need to work on.
Well, if anybody comes to you with anything and you don't want to do it, say, I know a girl in the DC area that could be on a plane in 5 minutes. She'll do it. I'll do it.
Yeah, I mean,
We were just trying to pick your brain but obviously you have such a huge,
but Mary
huge
Payne and
social media
Ingrid
following.
realize they're like, oh, there's nothing in that brain. This is a wasted meeting because there's nothing going on in this brain. Like I ended up asking you more questions than you asked me.
No, Ryan's answer is, I really don't know. I just get emails. I was like,
I
okay,
was like, it was like so great. Like I was like, God, I was like, I should really pay more attention to all this stuff. Like this is where it's at. That was like, I think I texted Maritza saying, I was like, man, Mary Payne knows everything. I was like, this is wild. She knows it all.
maybe I'm just nosy. Maybe that's just what it is. Maybe I'm just nosy. Well, everybody follow Ryan Bailey, and I'm glad, and I hope everybody enjoyed this throwback then and now from, what did we say, from 2020?
2020.
April 2020. I hope you enjoyed it, and there'll be more this week. Like I said, I've got Kate Casey coming on, and I think her episode with me was from 2018,
Oh my
perhaps.
God.
Like super a long time ago. And then Matt and Jake, which was also around April of 2020. That episode's coming out with them. So they'll all be included here on Pink Shade, so you could listen to it and then listen to the now part. And then I think we'll just keep doing it. Maybe 3 more years we'll do it again. What do you think?
Yeah, this is great. I mean, that would actually be fast. There was a great documentary series by Michael Apted called 7 Up, and it followed these kids from 7, 14, 21, 28, 35. It's really this amazing docuseries or documentary movies. But yeah, that actually kind of a good idea. I really want to listen to the Kate one because Kate she started way before us, and to see,
Yeah.
it's just so interesting how people move through this industry. And, it's to me, I geek out about stuff like this too. So I can't wait to listen to that one.
Okay, awesome. All right, everybody, follow Ryan on social media. You know where he is. So Bad It's Good with Ryan Bailey, and make sure to listen to his podcast.
Bye guys.
Hey y'all, and welcome to this week's Payne and the Pod. Before I get into this week's guest, I want to thank all my people that are joining on Patreon. It's so exciting. There's so much going on over there. For the $10 level, I'm putting out a what to listen to each week. And for the highest level, I'm doing a weekly Zoom call face to face so you can talk to me about podcast or pop culture or whatever you want to talk about. So let me shout out these people that are joining because it's so exciting. So first we have at the No Pain, No Gain, which is the top level, we have Anne, Dana, David, Elizabeth, Jenna, Marcy, Megan, Whitney. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. It's amazing. And then on the next level, which is called So Much Pain, I've got Angela, Claire, Elizabeth, Holly, Katrina, Natalie, Rebecca, and I think it's Sherna or Shern. Thank you, guys. And then there's lots of people on the other levels that I want to shout out as well, because all levels make it run. And it's just a huge, huge deal for me to have all these people that want the extra content. So thank you. Now, on to this week's guest. It's Ryan Bailey of the podcast So Bad It's Good with Ryan Bailey. He's so funny. And if you want to just laugh, follow him on Twitter. It's Ryan Bailey 25. He's got a great podcast. Some of his podcasts are 4 hours long. And so you'll hear while I'm talking to him that I'm trying to counsel him to get those down a little shorter or break it into 2. But he's hilarious. He's a wealth of knowledge, and I loved talking to him. So enjoy this week's episode. And as always, please let me know what you're listening to. Thanks. Hey Hey all, and welcome to this week's Payne in the Pod. I'm so excited to have a fun guest today. Is Ryan Bailey of So Bad It's Good with Ryan Bailey. Ryan's podcast is hilarious, and it's a deep dive into pop culture, including a lot of reality TV. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Thank you so much for having me. This is I'm ecstatic right now.
Oh my gosh! Well, that's the first I've heard of that. That's really nice.
I'm quarantine ecstatic. I'm
okay,
quarantine
all right.
ecstatic.
So it's a different level, perhaps.
It's a different level. Yeah, normally I would just be like pretty excited, but now I'm quarantine ecstatic because it's just stuck in my bedroom.
I understand. I'm stuck in my guest room. So your podcast, for my listeners who haven't heard it, it literally talks about everything. So we start with anything pop culture, and you break down song lyrics. You watch old shows, you watch current shows.
Yeah.
So how did you get this started? And then how did you decide to sort of go down this track of like, I'm just going to just blanket it all?
It wasn't meant to be a blanket of it all because these podcasts are extremely long. Like I'll do 4 to 5 hour podcasts each week, and they're really heavily produced in the sense that I take a lot of time with putting like sound cues in and clips of the shows and stuff. And I originally had been on a Kardashian podcast called Realizing Stuff, where I did it with a partner, and I never thought I would do a solo podcast, but I really missed it once we stopped doing that podcast. So I started that. I didn't think I would be able to talk more than half hour by myself. And it just got to be where I grew up in pop culture. I was like the little weird kid that grew up in Kansas that my mom would take me to the mall and she would let me pick out one magazine, and I would pick out like Variety or the Hollywood Reporter. Like I was obsessed with movies. I was obsessed with TV. And as I got older, it's kind of weird. You know, I really fell in love with reality shows about like 13 years ago. And especially for a straight man, it's very weird to be into every Bravo show that's known to man. But like, so I love music, I love movies, and I really love reality shows. So the show kind of just covers everything. And I just kind of found that I was like, I can't just talk about one thing because I kept wanting to talk about more. So I put timestamps on these shows so people can skip to the topic they want to go to, but also all of it's with a blend of real silliness and a real tongue-in-cheek. Like even those song lyrics that I break down, it's completely made up. Like I just literally take a song, I make up songs. Like I did, the Erica Jane song from Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, her "How Many F Words Do I Give?" And it turns out that song is about women's liberation. So, like I'll just break down, I'll make up a meaning to a song, but I'll really go into it. And, I don't know. So it kind of came to be, and I have to find a way to shorten these things because it's so hard to put together. It's so hard to put together, but I don't know. It keeps me sane, especially in a time like this. And, once you start this, like how many cool people that you meet that listen to you.
Yeah.
Like it really becomes this weird family that like keeps you going and like appreciates your work. And I'm an actor in LA, and it's really nice. Sometimes we don't have control over what auditions we have or anything like this. And this is the one thing in my life where I have a little bit of control of, so it's really nice.
I was going to ask you what your day job was. I mean, if you're in LA, I mean, I assume you're an actor, but one never knows.
Well, actually, I'm an acting teacher. So, so I've been at a place called Leslie Kahn & Company for the last 12 years. And it's we teach TV and film acting. So we'll coach actors on auditions. Once they book parts, we'll coach them. We teach classes there. But that's kind of been my day. I was a nightclub manager before that. And then I started that. And it allows me to go on auditions whenever I want. I mean, of course, now nothing is filming at all. But I do voiceover acting, TV and film acting, and commercial acting. So I've been on like The Office, How I Met Your Mother, Criminal Minds. So I work here and there, but this podcast kind of it's like another full-time job, and it's been great.
It totally is a full-time job, especially if you're doing the huge ones that you do. So are you still at this point going into your day job and then like staying up all night doing these podcasts? No.
Well, so that's what I was doing now, but now I am doing the same hours, but we do Zoom classes now.
Oh.
We do Zoom classes, and I'll still like man the phones. Like today, my shift is like 12:30 to 9 p.m. So yesterday was 8:30 to 5. It's like, it's a weird, like we're still like chugging along but we're having to reinvent the business and how we do things. But if you think about it, it's like Zoom, it's a different way of communicating. It's a different way of acting, but it's still a video seeing a face.
Mm-hmm.
And we still get to see, it's clunky, and you can't really do scenes with other actors because sometimes like the technology just stutters or something, but you can still do solo monologues. You can do, and I don't know if this is fascinating for your audience, but it is interesting. It is interesting to deal with actors and to try to solve. I think, I don't know if you realize this, usually with anything, any kind of problem that gets out there, like what we're dealing with now, usually artists or people that are creative like yourself, you'll find ways to deal with that issue and kind of make it better, find a different way around it. And I think hopefully in another couple of weeks or another couple of months, we're going to see some really great things come out of this time. It's going to push you to be more creative. It's going to push me to be more creative. And I really hope that that's what we're going to have to show for this at the end of all of this.
God, me too. It's going to be great to look back on it. And I keep telling my kids who are teenagers, I keep telling them, like, you're going to be able to like tell your kids, or like, you'll be going to be that person, be like, you won't believe what I lived through, like you'll remember it. And they're like, are we going to the beach? Can we go to camp? They're all they want to know is like, are they going to get to go to camp? Are they going to get to go to the beach? Will they get to play on their basketball league? And I'm like, I don't know. I gotta go upstairs and record a podcast. Somebody watch the dog. I gotta get through today. So it will be interesting. You're right, to see, like, for example, this past weekend they had Saturday Night Live.
I know.
Totally
that,
different. Yeah. And, I was like, all right, well, this is something fun to watch,
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, like, you think about the normal, like Saturday Night Live, like I watch it every week because it's just a tradition. Me and my dad, like I've watched every episode, like we used to watch it together, and I still watch it every week. And even before this, like, I got to tell you, sometimes it's not that great. So like them doing this past week, it was something different. Maybe it all didn't work, but some of it did work. And it was exciting that you're like, people push on, people adapt, people, it's just, we need these things. We need these podcasts. We need these shows. This is something that really helps us get through this time, I think. And I don't want to sound too much on a soapbox, but it really does mean something to me,
Yeah. Oh, I was thrilled to see it. And Tom Hanks said at the beginning, he goes, some of it you'll like, some of it you won't, but it's Saturday Night Live. That's the way it is every week. And every week you're like, this was good, this was bad. Yeah. Right.
I know. Yeah. The only thing is, like, you do miss the actual, you forget how much human, like actual physical human interaction means. And I don't mean touching, but just even like seeing people closer than 6 feet,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So when did you start the podcast? Has it been it's been like a year? I mean, it hasn't been super long.
No. It's only been 6 months, and I've been so lucky because it caught an audience really quickly. And what I was hoping to do in the first year, we did in like the first couple months, and it just really blew me away that I was able to find an audience, because you know how hard that is to like actually get people to care and get people to come back week after week, and especially for those long ones. So I've been really lucky. It's only been 6 months, but I've been podcasting, for years and years now. I even do a podcast for my acting school that I just talk to actors. So I've been doing this for a while, but in terms of this kind of like comedy, reality show, pop culture genre, this has only been 6 months, I think.
All right, you touched on this, so let's discuss the length of your podcast. So I've listened to quite a bit of them, and I was like, oh, well, when I'm going to interview someone, like I go in and I see like maybe what I haven't listened to, so I can really talk to you. And I was like, first I thought, because knowing you and that you're very funny, I thought, okay, well, this is like a joke. And he put that on there as like a joke, right? And you're going to actually zip through it, and it's going to be 45 minutes. I was like, holy shit, these podcasts are 4 hours long. Now, then I was like, surely he's put the timestamps on. So I went and scrolled, and you did. You had timestamps on where you talk about things, which is hugely helpful. So you could go through, because I love Laura Marie Shanehalls. I've had her on here before. And so I'm like, want to listen to what she has to say, especially anything regarding Vanderpump. So it is really long, but it is great that you have the timestamps in there for people to pick and choose, I guess.
I need you to help me get it shorter. We need to find a way to get it shorter. Once you start something and you're like, oh no, I can't seem to like pull it back now, and I need to find a way. But then you know how like your fans will or your listeners will like write in. The people that love these long ones are so vocal.
Yeah.
They make sure that but I also realize that it's leaving out a good portion of people that see that huge number and they get scared off. I realize that too. So I'm trying to find some way, but during the quarantine, I'm doing quarantine supersized episodes and I'll figure it out afterwards.
I would suggest you break it into 2 podcasts a week. Because then
See, that's what, do you think like part 1 and part 2?
Mm-hmm. People like that. People love 2 podcasts a week because it's like, like for you, like if you look in your podcast app and it pops up, you'd be like, oh, it's like a little present. Like I didn't know I was going to get this one today. Because if you're subscribed, it pops up. So that's my,
Well, I think that's actually a great idea. And I'm just, I get scared to then try new things.
Of course.
I can always try new segments and I do silly new segments all the time, but it's sometimes now I'm like, oh no, are people going to hate me if I do that? I worry too much about this stuff.
Yes, it sounds like it. But but let's talk about this. All right. So if you record, let's say a 4-hour podcast.
Yeah.
Okay. How long are you really recording? And then you give it over. I heard you refer to producer Linda. You give it over for editing, or is producer Linda really you and you're editing it?
Producer Linda she is a real girl that lives in Chicago, Illinois with her husband. She actually is not really a producer. She's somebody, and actually she's been taking the last month off due to all of this. So she's left me to my own devices, but I do I say we just because it sounds better than but I do all the editing myself. I do all of it. She's helped me. Sometimes she'll help me with outlines. She'll help me with like, if I say, hey, I want to do a segment on Tiger King, she'll put together clips to like check out.
Oh, uh-huh.
So she'll kind of put things in my face. I'll call her to talk about an idea and see if I'm crazy or not because she has a really great female perspective that I'm like, I got to realize like, oh, I'm just a dumb male. I need that perspective, but I do all the editing myself. So like last night, the podcast was like 4.5 hours yesterday, but then in terms of like editing and things like that, all in, I'm spending like 12 hours on one episode,
Ryan, you have this is too much for one person with a real full-time job.
I know, but like when you find something that you really love, I feel like just keep working hard now and eventually this will pay off in some way. And I know this sounds so silly because these are, I'm proud of these and I know this sounds so silly, but I'm proud of myself, and I know they're very silly and stuff like that, but it's just something that I think I needed this as much as anybody that like gets something out of it when they listen. So, but I do realize I've painted myself into a corner and I'm losing massive amounts of sleep one night a week.
Yeah. I'm worried about your sleeping. Do you have like
I know I love it. I feel like this is like an intervention.
Do you have like a Fitbit or something that tells you how much you sleep?
I do.
Yeah, like I do too. I showed my husband the other night. I go, look at this. It says I slept 7 hours and 18 minutes, and it said up 2 times, restless 26 times. I go, I'm not sleeping well, and he goes,
yes.
Did you see that says 7 hours? That's a lot of sleep. I go, are you kidding? I need 8 to 9 hours, and I don't need 26 times restless. He's like astounded about the amazing sleep that I got, where I'm like, I think this is horrible.
That Fitbit sleep tracker you get obsessive with it because then when they give you that average of sleep and like you get one night where you're only getting like 4 hours of sleep, it throws off the whole sleep average. And like you need that sleep average to be above 6.5 hours or it's no good,
Yes.
Yeah. Wait, are you one of those Fitbit people where you're like, I need to get 10,000 steps or more a day and you get obsessed and you can't go to bed unless you get it?
I never was until this quarantine. Matter of fact, I haven't put my Fitbit on in maybe about a year. But since the quarantine, I was like, well, let's see what's doing. Charged it up, put it back on, and turns out I was getting about, like 4,000 steps a day. So now I'm going out for a walk every single day, sometimes twice. And if I can hit 10,000 before like 8 or 9 o'clock, I'm good. But as long as I hit it before I go to bed, and if I get in the bed and it says like 9, 7, 3, I'm just circling around my bedroom.
Oh my God. That's what I sometimes will run in place because I want to hit that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to hit that 10,000 And it's sometimes when my Fitbit runs out of battery and I forget, it almost is like it's released me. I'm like, oh, thank God. It's like I need that 10,000 or I can't, go to sleep.
When mine runs out of battery and I forgot to charge it the night before, then I'm mad because I'm like, I took 2 walks a day. I bet I at least got 12. And now Fitbit doesn't know how amazing I am.
Well, that's also like, if I'm going to go walk without a Fitbit, what's the point of that?
Point?
Like, I'm not going to do free steps. Like, free steps for who? Like, Fitbit needs to know I've done all the steps.
Right, because Fitbit cares. And they're
Fitbit loves me. Yes.
My husband gets 15, 20,000 steps a day. And he'll be like, well, I ran a 5K on the treadmill this morning and then I took the dog. And I'm like, you know what? Go back in your office. Shut up. Nobody wants to talk to you.
I just want to be celebrated for walking. Come on.
I feel the same. Okay, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to be right back.
This episode is brought to you by HP Instant Ink. No one is reading your mind, but HP Instant Ink knows when your printer is running low and sends you new cartridges, so you never have to think about ink. Save up to 50%. You'll pay less than $5 a month for ink and never run out again. Find out if your printer is eligible and enroll today at hpinstantink.com. Conditions apply. For details, visit hp.com/instantink Spotify.
Okay, I am back with So Bad It's Good with Ryan Bailey. So I'm with Ryan Bailey. Okay, Ryan, you're just funny in general, right? You're a funny person. You're very funny on Twitter.
Not today, but yeah.
Yeah, today too.
Yeah, today's up.
You're very funny on Twitter. And this is how I found you originally. So I originally found you on Twitter and we're Twitter friends. And then you started the podcast. So of course, being a podcaster, I looked into it as well. Now, I would like to point out some famous people that follow you on Twitter.
Yes.
So you were saying it's great to hear cool people listen. Let's discuss the cool people that listen. Monica Lewinsky follows you.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Watch What Happens Live, the show, follows you.
Yes.
DJ James Kennedy and Raquel follow you.
Raquel, yes.
Ariana Maddox.
Yeah.
Danny Pellegrino, my buddy I love.
Awesome guy.
Stephen Ray Morris of My Favorite Murder.
Yeah.
Okay, so you and I are going to talk later about that. My buddy Annabelle DeSisto.
No, I love Annabelle.
Entertainment Tonight, the show.
Oh.
My buddies Ben and Ronnie. Watch What Crappens.
Yeah.
Dave Holmes.
Oh, yeah.
Huge.
Yes.
And Pratt Daddy, Spencer Pratt.
Yes.
Now, I don't think he doesn't give away likes and follows very easily.
No, he doesn't.
Okay,
he doesn't.
So let's discuss these people.
Yes.
How did it come that Monica Lewinsky follows you?
Okay, so Monica Lewinsky is actually just a friend of mine.
What?
Yeah. My ex and me, we used to have a dinner party, and she used to work with her brother, Mike, and who's a great guy. And so we would do this dinner party thing every month where we would go to somebody's different house or something. And that's how I met Monica. So I've been friends with Monica over probably a decade now. And it was so funny. The first night we actually hung out, we played one of those games, one of those guessing games. And I swear to God, one of the clues was her.
Oh, God.
One of the questions was about her. And she made a huge joke about it. But I got to say, one of the nicest, funniest people that I know, one of the kindest people I know, what she's had to deal with, she would tell me stories about having to move apartments because of people following her home.
Sure.
What she means to American pop culture is incredible. I mean, her name's a verb sometimes. She's named in rap songs.
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine waking up and not knowing which piece of pop culture you're going to be mentioned in, and then if it's going to be good or bad? And I feel like she, I love pop culture in the sense that some people can have these redemption arcs. Not that she needs redeemed in any sort of way,
no, I know what you
but
mean.
I love that the tide has turned on her and people realize what a genuine good person she is. And she has a really great stance on anti-bullying that I love.
Right.
I was bullied in junior high and high school, and I understand that kind of stuff. So I really love what she's using her voice for now, even though it's very bizarre why she even has a voice to begin with. Mm-hmm. But I feel there's somebody that's used it for good. But all around, just a good, normal person that I'm really proud to call a friend,
That's amazing. Okay, now on a totally different spectrum, DJ James Kennedy Why does what happened the day that you found out DJ James Kennedy and Raquel were following you? Because I don't think probably I haven't kept track of it, but I can't imagine that you're like the biggest fans of DJ James Kennedy and Raquel.
Okay, so if you follow me on Instagram, So Bad It's Good with Ryan Bailey, I kind of have a running joke, and on the show as well, that I'm in love with DJ James Kennedy. And part of that is like I just like to say DJ James Kennedy.
Same.
I never call him James Kennedy. It's always DJ James Kennedy.
Same.
I genuinely like his song Top Man, but like for years I act like I think there's something funny about a man my age where where I genuinely fangirl out about these people. So like, I'm like, I love DJ James Kennedy. I love you, DJ James Kennedy. And even yesterday I posted a picture of like the first time I met DJ James Kennedy. I've met him like 15 times now. I never like say, hey, I'm the guy from Twitter. I'll joke around. Like I went to his opening night at CU next Tuesday. He just did a couple months ago when he got back to SUR. And I went there. I did a man on the scene podcast recording of his first night back.
Oh my God.
So I like to treat it like it's the most serious thing in the world. But I loved when he followed me.
Oh my God.
The thing is, you have to realize these people, except for Ariana, they're not in on the joke fully.
Right.
Like DJ James Kennedy doesn't understand why I think it's funny that I love him. Like he won't understand, like it works on two levels. So like I love him genuinely, but I also love him like in a tongue-in-cheek manner.
Of course. Okay, so before Runyon Canyon's trail was closed, you saw him and Raquel and Graham.
Yeah, so I was walking uphill, they were walking downhill, and I was completely out of breath. So I knew I couldn't like stop and say anything. So I wanted him to know that I understood that he was a famous DJ. So I walked by him and I was like panting. So all I did was I said, Top Man, because that's his song, and I saluted him. And he goes, yeah. And and then I just kept walking. I didn't even break pace. I just kept walking because I was like, he must think I'm so cool that I just said Top Man and just kept walking. The only thing I regret is that I didn't have enough breath control to turn to my left and tell Raquel that I think she's doing amazing this season. And that's what I regret about that. She really is. Did you watched last night already, right?
I did. Mm-hmm.
Did you notice in one of those scenes, she finally found her correct speaking voice? She usually goes, I'm very nervous to be here. I'm Raquel. But she dropped into her voice. Did you one scene? She was like, hi, how are you? I'm Raquel. Like she did not have shaky voice in one scene. And I was so proud of her because you can tell she's like not nervous as much as she was in the beginning of the season.
This is also, I think, the acting coach in you telling you dropped into your voice.
Well, do you ever watch reality shows and go, you watch so many like I do. Do you ever watch so many where you're like, oh, come on, this is completely fake. They're faking this completely.
Well, I mean, 98% of them. What was your feeling on Love is Blind with that girl, Jessica, who's like, and Jessica.
Jessica the Messica.
I've never heard a worse voice in my life. When I watched this, and everyone else had already watched it, so I was like texting my friends, like, wait, I was texting Aaron Martin, actually, like, this girl, Jessica, like, how is it that 2 or 3 different guys are after her? Because if we're going on voice alone, I would have run out of the room because her voice was like, oh my God. And then later on, she's like, listen, you're not being serious with your feelings. I was like, who's this? What's this voice? So as an acting coach, were you watching that like, oh my God?
Well, I mean, I was watching that at many different levels. Jessica was alarming to me. Like it was like a split personality. It was like, how many people are in there, Jessica? Like, who am I speaking to right now? You know? Which, by the way, don't you think on that Love is Blind that we deserve every piece of footage they have from those pods? They just need to release all of it. Like, I want to see all of the Jessica footage. Like, just let me watch all the pod footage. You don't need to edit it. I'm a grown-up man. I can just watch it and like turn it off when I want. But they're sitting on hours of footage. I want to know exactly everything that was said in those pod dates.
Do you know what's so interesting, though, is there's all these ancillary characters that we never got anything out of. And I heard one of the producers tell, I think Andy Cohen, said, no, there was like 3 other couples that fully like went on the Mexico trip and everything that we never even showed, because that Kenny and Kelly, all of a sudden they were on the Mexico trip. I'm like, who are these people? But they said there were so many couples that did match up. And I was like, Season 2, give us those people. Where are they now? You know?
Can you imagine not being good enough to actually make the show after you've shot the show? Could you imagine that? Like acting like you're like, because part of the thing of this is that they're falling in love because the excitement of the cameras. Imagine like having that feeling and then thinking you're going to be like known for it, and then nothing happens. Like
And then
that's
you're
got to be
trapped for like
exactly
8 weeks or whatever they were.
And oh my God. And the same thing with like The Bachelor. Like I'll get like 8 episodes in on The Bachelor and I'll meet people for the first time, these contestants. I'll be like, I never saw that girl. I do not know where she came from. Like, how did she just came 8 episodes in.
Yeah. And they're getting paid nothing. And okay, so I want to, let's go back to these people that follow you.
Yes.
The TV shows that follow you. Watch What Happens Live in Entertainment Tonight. Now, how did that come about?
Now,
2 TV shows are following you.
Entertainment Tonight actually is a show like that was my favorite show as a child growing up in Kansas. 6 p.m. I believe it would always come on, and I was like Mary Hart and John Tesh.
Yeah.
Like that was the only entertainment news you would get back then. Like it was that was before like cable was so huge, and 7 years old, I was like on that thing every night. They followed me because I tweeted about like pop culture things, and like they followed me through there, but I've never DM'd with them, but they've like I think they retweeted me once or something about some pop culture thing. Watch What Happens Live is because I think I know the person who runs their Twitter account. They follow me separately. Well, because I tweet a lot about Vanderpump Rules and stuff. Yeah. So that's how the guy found me. And then he runs the Watch What Happens Live account. And then they've retweeted me a couple times. And I got to tell you, I know it's so silly, but it makes me feel like I'm doing something with my life. So
it is nice. You know, who follows me is I've got Melissa Gorga.
Oh my gosh.
I have no idea how. I think one time I just tweeted something about like Team Melissa or something. And then I got many years ago, Stassi followed me. And sometimes we chat on the Twitter sometimes.
Has Stassi been on the pod yet?
No, from your lips to God's ears. I've tried. We even have like Taylor Strucker is like a mutual friend, and I still can't get her on.
You know, I went to acting at Bo Clark. I
was going to ask you if you know Bo. Yeah.
Yeah. He was I actually finally told this story last week. I'm friendly with Bo. He was in my first acting class in Los Angeles, and he really is a commercial casting director. He brings me in for commercials, and he got me my last commercial agent about 1.5 years ago. He knows I love Vanderpump Rules. I had to warn him, but we never talk Vanderpump Rules. And I get really scared because I really go hard on that cast sometimes, and I'll make fun of them so I get really nervous that Bo's going to find out like how hard I go sometimes. And but I got to say, the Bo I know has always been an extremely nice, caring, generous person outside of that TV show.
I met him when I was in LA.
Wait, did you go to the Countess Luann show?
Yeah, and I was at that VIP after party.
Yeah,
I was there, and I just went up to him because I talked to Jackie, and I was talking to Jackie, and then Jackie was talking to him, Jackie of the Bitch Bible. Jackie Schimmel. And I went up, It was like, Jackie, will you introduce me? And then I met him, and then they started talking. I was like, nice to meet you, and ran off like a loser. But I did meet him, and I was like, oh, wow, he's taller than I thought.
Yeah, I pitched a show to him that we were like thinking about where we followed Countess Luann, like the Grateful Dead, and just went town to town and like tailgated outside Countess Luann's concert.
That's amazing. That's amazing. It would get pretty old. I've now been 2 times. Okay. So speaking of Vanderpump Rules and DJ James Kennedy and Bo and Stassi and all that, you're pretty vocal in your disdain for Jax Taylor. For a while there, your goal was to be blocked, and then pretty quickly you were blocked. I'm blocked on one account. I was blocked, and then I was unblocked, and now I'm blocked again. And I have no idea. I never speak of him. I've met him in person. He's a jackass. I don't speak of him. But he blocked me. Now, has Jax ever done anything to you personally, or you just hate him as a human on the show?
Yeah, he kidnapped my mom one time. No. He's not done anything to me personally, but I don't know. I think I have this weird Catholic, like small town kind of thing where I feel personally upset that like he is able to get away with as much as he does, and nobody calls him. Like, I mean, he doesn't really suffer any long-term consequences. And I think it's like, how do you keep failing upwards? And I think I have this weird sense of outrage about it. And on the podcast every week, or a lot of the weeks, I'll do a segment called Jack's Tweets of the Week, because his Twitter, like you said, is on this week's episode. He went after FedEx because he didn't get a package. And I'm like, how ballsy does it take to at FedEx when we are in a pandemic and you didn't get, like, what is it, your protein powder you didn't get? He
Right.
literally is going back and forth yelling about them. And I'm like, dude, these essential workers are busting their ass so we can get our Amazon packages, and you're adding them on Twitter. And he went, I mean, not just one tweet, he did like 30 tweets in a row at FedEx. And I'm like, you are so privileged. And then he picks fights with 15-year-old girls on Twitter and calls them fat and stuff like that. And I just,
Oh, he'll say things like, your husband should punch you right in your face.
yes, or you're ugly, you're so
Ugly.
ugly.
Yeah.
And I don't like how I mean, it's just funny. I feel like a child when I do it. Like I go stoop down to his level because I just don't like how he treats Sandoval this season. I just don't like him. And I like, dude, don't you remember you've cheated on your best friend with his girlfriend at the time. You've cheated on everybody you've ever been with. You are performative in your love,
including the one he's married to now.
yes. And like, I just feel like my mom is very religious and he's very performative in his love of God right now. And I'm like,
Yes.
he needs to let us know all the time how much he loved. Like, and I just, sometimes the performativeness of Jax Taylor is a little much for me. So I need to yell about it.
I understand. I understand. I feel that way about a lot of people on TV. Just your Twitter is it's everything. And I was looking at it before we were talking, and that's when I noticed all these like people that were following you. And I remembered a while back when it was like your name was blocked by Jax Taylor, and I was like, you and everybody else in the world. Yeah, it's crazy. So when Vanderpump comes to an end, if it ever ends, I know it's like 21 episodes and we're like 15 in or something.
Yeah.
What will be your next target? Who will you be mad at next?
Gosh, it'll probably just be myself, but like, who would be my target? Who else do I used to really not like Nick Vial from The Bachelor, but he's done with that. Like, let me see, okay, I'm trying to think of somebody on 90 Day Fiance.
How do you feel about Big Ed?
I was just going to say Big Ed. Okay. So here's what I want to ask you. And I know you guys talk about 90 Day Fiance all the, like, okay. So Big Ed,
Uh-huh.
I don't agree with how he's treating Rose, I don't, shave your legs, all of this stuff. But like, if he was a good looking man in any sense of the word, I feel like he would be getting so much more of a break. But since he has no neck, people have gone hard on him. Like, I can't imagine if I was Big Ed, like reading the things that I read about him. There is a part of me that really pities him, even though, I mean, listen, 90 Day Fiance, I can't pretend to understand anything that's happening because it is just jaw-droppingly shocking that any of this exists. But I got to say, it's my favorite reality show on TV. And I don't cover it because I'm like, this one is for me. This one, I watch without taking notes because I just want to enjoy this and have this wave of shock and awe. Remember, what was the guy last night? Was it Caesar last season?
Poor Caesar, the nail tech?
Yeah, like I think I almost got angry at him. Like I was like, you just want to shake these people and be like, what? No, look at me. Like, what are you not understanding? Like the poor lady with Williams. Well, that doesn't sound like Williams, like she has 2 pictures of Williams. She's sending nude pictures and videos to him. And then she's getting like, can you imagine her kids? Could you imagine her kids going like, oh my God, my mom sent a dirty video to this guy she thinks his name is Williams.
Right.
Like, I mean,
it's really sad. It's really
so sad, but it's the best TV show ever. I try to explain to people, like, just give it a chance. And the only, like, I hate it because people will be like, no, I don't want it. They're too ugly. And I'm like, what? What? And that's why, like, shows like Vanderpump Rules and all those shows, like,
when everybody's pretty.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I love 90 Day Fiance. Give me all of that,
That's so funny. Yeah, a lot of people like get mad at some of the housewives because they want some of the housewife shows to be aspirational, right? And if somebody's living in like a townhouse, they're like, that's not aspirational. I too live in a townhouse. Do you know what I mean? Like, or they're like, this person lives like in a little apartment in New York City. I'm like, you don't even know how much that little apartment in New York City probably costs.
Yes.
But, yeah, so a lot of people watch these shows because they want it to be aspirational and just be so far out of their reach. Where in 90 Day Fiance, it's like it's you on your worst day, right? It's not, and that's why that's why we love it. And there are shows that people like to watch that are like, I just want to watch it and have it for me. And like for podcasters or recappers, some things like my daughter won't watch Vanderpump with me because I pause it because I'm typing.
Yeah.
90 Day, I usually watch all the way through, and then I go through and do my notes because I want to just like soak it in, the ridiculousness of it.
I used to do that with Vanderpump Rules too, where I'll watch it once or twice and then I'll watch it and take notes. But last night's episode was so bad that I just like, I'm going to just take notes from the beginning. But like, oh, you're married. How would you, if you weren't married, what would ever possess you to do a 90-day fiance? Like, couldn't you fail here in America? Like, couldn't you find somebody?
That's what I say all the time. That's what I say all the
Couldn't
time.
you find somebody to treat you bad here?
Why
Like,
can't
would you have
Darcy
to go
find some
overseas?
nice guy in Connecticut that wants to date her?
Darcy's going to be on that show her entire life.
Yeah.
She is never going. I met Darcy in person one time at a 90-day press event, and I have an interview on my podcast with her on the second episode. It's like a really tiny one, but she was wasted. She was wasted at a 90-day press event, and she literally didn't understand the like questions I was asking, and then she started hitting on me, and I was like. She's like, maybe I'll come home with you. And I was like, and the person that was like assigned to her from TLC was like, Doris, okay, we got to stop this. We got to stop this. And it was, I have a picture with us, and it was like, it's one of my most prized possessions is my picture with Darcy.
Oh my gosh. You could blow it up, put it up by your fireplace.
Yeah. I geek out about stuff like that.
I do too. And sometimes that's one of the reasons I didn't go to BravoCon was because I was like, I don't want to stand and get a picture with Ramona. I want to sit down and have a drink with her. Like I need to like get it. I need to really get in there. I don't want to like a 2-minute picture. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I need to really get in there and figure out what's happening. Okay. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about podcasts.
Support for this podcast comes from Invent Together. According to studies, less than 13% of all inventors who hold a U.S. patent are women. Black and Hispanic college graduates patent at half the rate of their white counterparts. But we can fix that by increasing participation in innovation and patenting by underrepresented groups. It would quadruple the number of American inventors and increase annual GDP by almost $1 trillion. Invent Together is a coalition of organizations, companies, universities, and concerned citizens committed to ensuring that everyone has the opportunity to invent and patent. Because the more diverse the American patent system gets, the stronger and more successful our nation will become. What can you do to help diverse inventors patent and unleash economic opportunity? Find out at inventtogether.org. Learn more and take action today.
Okay, I'm back with Ryan Bailey of So Bad It's Good with Ryan Bailey. So Ryan talks about everything pop culture, and that's just from A to Z, anything in between. But you're telling me you've been more of a long-time podcaster than I realized because I only know about this podcast. So tell me, you were on another podcast about the Kardashians?
Yeah, that was called Realizing Stuff with Kara and Ryan. And Kara, my partner, she was a Kardashian connoisseur. She knew everything about the Kardashians. And I, at the time, had never watched the Kardashians. So the conceit of it was a recap show where she knew everything about the Kardashians and I knew nothing. So I would just be like, Kendall would come on screen and I'd be like, this girl's an idiot. Like, how does this girl even exist? Like, I was kind of shocked and amazed. I just wasn't, I knew Kardashians from pop culture, of course, but I didn't know anything about the shows. She was the straight man. I was the funny man that was just like, kind of like, when Caitlyn would come on screen, it would be like, yeah, baby, it's me, Caitlyn. Woo!
I don't watch the Kardashians at all.
Oh, it's horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Like they have the most exciting lives of any celebrity family known to man, and they still manage to make it one of the most boring shows known to man. They do an hour-long show with, I say, about like 5 good minutes an episode. But it's fascinating because they could have the best reality show in the history of reality shows, but it's so overproduced and fake.
Yeah.
I gotta say, this season's better than most. The first 3 episodes have been actually pretty good, but that's not saying a lot because that show is just wall to wall bad usually.
I don't know anything about it. You'll see sometimes in People or Daily Mail or whatever, that it'll be like a photo and then it'll show you like what happened on the show. And it shows the photo of how they're setting up this shot to have this like casual conversation, but that, took them 2 hours to set up the shot for this casual conversation, which of course happens on all reality shows, but Kardashian seems more egregious than most.
Oh, it was like, recapping that show, sometimes just having to watch the show was like clocking in at a coal mine or something. You're just like, time to go to work.
Time to watch the
Yeah,
Kardashians.
exactly. Yeah.
Oh my God. So what podcast do you listen to? I always find it so interesting, especially for somebody like you
Yeah.
and your pop culture background. I'll be very interested to see what you're listening to.
So this is kind of like really, I don't know if it's weird or it's normal, but like, I don't listen to pop culture podcasts. I will listen to the New York Times The Daily every morning. It's like a 20 to 30-minute podcast hosted by Michael Barbaro, and it kind of gives me news, or it gives me a certain section of the world that I'm not aware of, or a story. I mean, right now it's all pandemic things, so it's sometimes really scary to listen to, and I find myself not listening to as much as I used to. I will always, I always usually listen to that. That's something that I start my day with usually.
Did you hear the one where it was the Harvey Weinstein lawyer?
Oh,
And at the
oh
end,
my
when they said,
God.
at the end, they asked her, so you've never been like a young girl that was in a bad position and she said, I would never let that happen to me. I would never put myself in that position. I was like, what? Are
I
you a
remember,
woman in this world? I mean,
I remember listening to
crazy.
that at work, and just like my jaw was like, it was it was compelling, fascinating podcast, but it was jaw droppingly troubling on so many levels. And like, I have mainly friends that are girls. I grew up on a street in Kansas with all girls, and I just kind of have more girl tendencies than guy tendencies. And I got to say, like, the older I get, the more women tell me their stories involving men. And it is so alarming when you hear somebody that can represent a monster like that, and try to, I know lawyers have to do their thing, but to make excuses for a man that has deliberately done so many horrible things to women. And the sad thing is, he's not the only one. Like, every woman seems to have a story about a man.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. I totally got off track because I was like,
No, I know. I
when
was
you
like,
said the
I'm getting,
daily, I was like, because I kind of pick and choose with the daily as well, because too much bad news is not good for me. So with the daily, I kind of look and see what it's about, and I'm like, do I feel like knowing how many people died, or maybe so with the daily, I have to pick and choose. But you listen every day.
I have skipped a couple when it's been like, I got to say, sometimes my emotional mood is up and down during this pandemic. So sometimes it's not the thing I'll rush to. And I used to like turn on the TV every morning, and now I don't do that anymore either. I was
Same.
getting news obsessed for a while.
I go through cycles of that as well, and now I just either put on HGTV or Bravo and just let it run.
Yeah.
Just let it run, like whatever it is, it'll be fine. It'll be filler.
Yeah.
Okay, what other podcast? Sorry, we got totally off track.
Okay. So there's a podcast by Gimlet Media called Heavyweight.
Okay.
It's hosted by this one guy, but they're kind of like stories where it's called Heavyweight, one word, but it breaks down into two words, heavy weight. And it's all about these stories of people's weight that they carry around, not physically, but mental weight, of like stories that have happened in their past where they just never got an answer for. There was one person, Moby, the DJ. This one guy thought he used to be friends with Moby like 25 years ago, and he loaned Moby this collection of African tribal music, and Moby turned it into one of his hit songs. And he felt he was like, I loaned him those records 25 years ago. I never got credit for those. And they track Moby down and they tell this whole story. But in doing so, you really get this unique perspective on the person that's been carrying around this weight all their life. And then you get to talk to the person that actually has taken space up in this person's mind, and they usually have no clue. They're like, I just borrowed a record. I don't know, so
Wow.
it's a really interesting, I love things like that, where it's produced because you get you hear the story, you hear a bunch of different interviews. I grew up a big reader. Like I used to read a lot before. Now I don't at all because I watch TV, but I feel like there's something very cinematic and very novel about it, where they're telling a story from A to B, A to Z.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna check that out because it sounds like a good story, and maybe some of them are like at the end, it's like a catharsis or like a feel good at the end.
Yeah.
Maybe. All right, you got anything else?
Okay, this is like an oldie, and this is WTF with Mark Maron. And not because of Mark Maron. Like, I will usually skip past all of his solo stuff in the beginning and I'll go right to the interview because he's one of the first people that actually kind of broke in podcasts in terms of success. The range of his guests it's really insane. He gets the best guests and I always love to see where he goes with it. I love to see, and also I don't know if you do this as well, Will, where I feel like it strengthens me as an interviewer or points out like, or you'll listen to something and be like, oh, I would have asked this, or I would have asked, I'm so curious about this. And I think for that, it helps me in trying to get to be a better interviewer. And I sometimes don't think he's the best interviewer in the world, but it is interesting. And I try to stay away usually from all pop culture and reality show podcasts because I don't want to copy what Danny's doing or what you're doing or what Laura's doing. And I love all of these people. Like Laura lives like 2 doors down from me. And like, she's one of my she's one of my really good friends. Like, but I don't want to copy. Like, I already know we're all funny. I already know we're all special and unique. But what I don't want to do is I never want to copy somebody else. I never want to do somebody's imitation. I want to have my own opinions. So sometimes I'll stay away from that. And that's why I listen to like a news podcast or a story podcast or something that I don't do, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't listen to a lot of 90-day recaps because
you already do one. Yeah,
everybody's funny, and I don't want to say something. If Aaron and I are talking about it, I don't want to say it, and then because I will always say, "Oh, I heard this." Somebody else said this, or on Pillow Talk they said this, because I don't want it to be like I'm taking credit for this like new thought. Yeah. So I think because you have to kind of be careful. And plus, you're so enmeshed in the pop culture with what you're doing. I think it would probably be hard to you're like, oh, I already talked about that for 7 hours yesterday.
Same thing on Twitter is that I'll never hashtag search because like everybody's idea is their own. I don't want to poach anybody's ideas, and we usually all have similar ideas anyways. But I think it's what makes podcasts special to me is when I get a little sense of who Mary Payne is, or would I get a little sense of like who that person is, like, and this is a very acting thing, is that like anybody can say the lines on a page, but what do you bring to it? What is your special sauce that you put on something? And that's what I look for in anything that I watch or listen to or see, is that I want to see what everybody, I know this sounds so flowery, but everybody's unique. Everybody has their own way of like humor and talking. And I just think that's what's so cool about podcasts.
I agree. Oh man, I think you nailed it. I think that's a great way to end it too. To talk about how special and wonderful and flowery we are. Listen, I want everybody that is my listener here to, if you want just any kind of coverage of any kind of pop culture, Ryan's got it for you. And some of his podcasts are very long. I'm having an intervention with him. We're going to figure out a way. We're going to break it into 2 a week. But the great thing that he does, and a lot of people don't do this, is he puts the timestamps in so you can sort of go through. You're like, all right, I don't want to hear about Vanderpump Rules, but I do want to hear about Kardashians or whatever else is out there. So check out So Bad It's Good with Ryan Bailey, and tell everybody where they can find you, especially on the Twitter, where I think it's a bright, shining moment on my Twitter feed.
Thank you. It's at Ryan Bailey 25, RyanBailey. And then my Instagram for the show is So Bad It's Good with Ryan Bailey. And I just do a lot of silly memes and a lot of Vanderpump Rules, making fun of Jax. I put boobs on Jax the other day and it made me laugh. So that's on there. And and always reach out. I love talking to anybody that listens or anybody that loves the same stuff I do. We have a really special community here. So please reach out.
Thank you so much. This has been amazing.
Thank you.
We'll keep talking. We'll catch up.
Wait. By the way, now because you already said you'll come on my pod, right?
I will.
Okay, so we have to decide which hour you want to be on and which show you want to do.
Well, I'll do anything, but I can't talk for 4 hours.
No.
I have to talk for 4 hours?
The guests only have to talk for like 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay, all right, yeah, that I can do.
What if I make you do all 4 hours? That's perfect.
Like, let me get my coffee and then let me just roll right into drinking.
You're sleeping, Mary Payne. You're sleeping. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Ads not read by me, Mary Payne, don't necessarily reflect the views of Pink Shade. If you'd like to listen to ad-free, you're going to go on over to Supercast or Patreon, and you can find the links to Pink Shade Prime at pinkshadepodcast.com.